San Diego is America's finest city. Okay, I might be a little bit biased because I live here, but it is a wonderful place to live. But if you click this video, you probably already knew that. You came here for the answer to one question on your mind. How much is it going to cost me to buy a home in San Diego? And so if that's you, you came to the right video because my name's Katon. I'm a loan officer in San Diego, California. And on this channel, I help people just like you learn how to buy their first home and make the mortgage process a lot easier. And without dragging it out too much, let's just go ahead and jump right on into it. For starters, we have to talk about the average cost of a home in San Diego, and that's going to be very dependent on when you're watching this. I can confidently say that the average price of a single family home in San Diego right now is about $800,000. But what does that $800,000 mean for you and your wallet? Well, let's find out. Now, assuming that you don't have $800,000 lying around, you're going to need a mortgage. Now, while there's several different mortgage options for you to choose from, whether that's the conventional loan, FHA, or VA loan, especially VA, which is very popular here in San Diego, for the purposes of this video, I'm just going to be covering the conventional loan. So with conventional loans, you typically hear that and you think 20%, which is $160,000 for an $800,000 home. But what if you don't got that lying around? Well, the good news for you is because San Diego is considered a high cost of living area for Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, the loan limits for San Diego are a lot higher. So in fact, you can use a conventional loan with as little as 5% down to buy a home here in San Diego. So that means instead of shelling out $160,000 to buy your first home, you're really going to need to start with a down payment of about $40,000. Now, on top of your down payment, you're also going to want to factor in closing costs. Now, while I've got another great video that covers exactly what closing costs are, roughly in San Diego, they're going to cost you around 2 to 3% of the price of the home. So for purposes of this video, add on another 3%, call that $24,000 on top of the $40,000. So out of pocket, you're going to need roughly $64,000 to buy your first home. So now that you got your number in mind for the out-of-pocket expense that you're going to require to buy a home, let's talk about the monthly expense and what this is going to mean overall for how much you need to be making in order to qualify for a home here in San Diego. Mortgage rates right now for a conventional loan with 5% down are roughly 6% right now. So on a loan amount of $760,000 at 6% interest for 30 years on a conventional loan, your monthly payment for that is going to be right around $4,500 a month. Now that payment specifically only covers the principal and interest part of your mortgage payment, but your principal and interest isn't the only part that goes into your overall housing expense. You're also going to need money set aside for your property taxes and your homeowner's insurance as well. So in California, property taxes run right around 1.25% of the value of the home. So on an $800,000 home, you're looking at about $10,000 a year in property taxes. Now, this is just a general tax rate. Depending on the neighborhood that you're buying into, you may have a little bit less, you might have a little bit more, especially if you're into a newer neighborhood that might have Mello-Roos. So make sure you keep that in mind when you're putting your budget together. And on top of property taxes, you're also going to have to account for homeowner's insurance. Homeowner's insurance is roughly going to cost you on a single family home in San Diego about $1,200 a year, or to make it easy, $100 a month. Once again, this number could be up or down, especially if you're living in a high-risk fire zone, which we know is all too common in California, or interestingly enough, in a flood zone, which would require you to get flood insurance on top of that. And additionally, because you're not putting the full 20% down on it, you're going to have a thing called mortgage insurance. Now, mortgage insurance isn't all that crazy bad. I've got another video talking about why you can actually get rid of it and how you're going to do that. But for the purposes of this video, let's say your mortgage insurance is going to cost you another $266 a month. So the next part is pretty simple. All you're going to do is add up your principal and interest, your taxes, your insurance, and your mortgage insurance, and voila, you've got a mortgage payment of about $5,700 a month. So now that we figured out exactly what our housing expense is going to be, we can now work that number backwards to figure out how much money you need to be making in order to not just afford, but also qualify for that kind of mortgage. Conventional loans allow up to a maximum of about 45 to 50% DTI, or debt to income. All this number is your monthly expenses divided by your gross monthly income. But that 45 to 50% assumes that you have no debt. Now, if that's you, great, but otherwise, let's be a little bit more conservative with this number and assume a debt to income of about 40% instead. So working backwards, this would mean you would have to have a monthly gross income of about $14,000 a month in order to qualify for this kind of loan. Or in other words, you would need to have a household income of about $172,650 a year in order to qualify to buy an $800,000 home with 5% down in this market. Now, I say household income because it doesn't have to be just you. You can have co-signers come in, whether that's your family member, a spouse, a friend, basically anyone who's going to be living in the home with you and paying that mortgage expense alongside you. Another reason why I like to use a little bit more of a conservative number for debt to income is because in the state of California, state taxes can get pretty high. So your take-home income on $14,000 could be as little as, $9,300 a month. So once you take out your mortgage, that leaves you with about $3,500, $3,600 a month left over for all your other expenses. So while this is a good baseline to figure out how much you qualify for, ideally you might want to make a little bit more so that you can really have that extra money to enjoy everything that San Diego has to offer. So to put it simply, using this very specific scenario, you're going to need an annual income of about $172,000 a year, plus about 64 grand to cover your down payment and your closing costs. Now, while there's a ton of other loan options out there that I can't have the time to really go into today, leave a comment, by the way, if you want me to go over these. You can look at VA, FHA, or some other down payment assistance options even to make sure that you've got the best option available to you that fits your specific finances. Now, when it comes to buying a home in San Diego or anywhere else, really, there's a lot to consider just past the mortgage payment. So make sure you're not just covering things like your property taxes and homeowners insurance or mortgage insurance if you got it, but all those other expenses as well, like utilities or, upkeep of the home. All these other expenses are going to be super important, especially in your first couple of years of homeownership if this is your first time around. And overall, buying a home is a significant financial decision, so I want to make sure that you're empowered with this information to make the right one. And yes, I know this is a very specific example, so if you actually want to know how much you could afford in San Diego, I've left a link in the description below that'll actually let you put in your information. There's no credit pull or anything like that, but it'll give you a baseline of what you might be qualified for to buy a home in San Diego. And if you want to take that even a step further, you can book a call with me one-on-one. I'd be more than happy to answer any of the questions and help you build a plan to buy your home in San Diego this year. Overall, buying a home in San Diego is going to be a huge financial decision no matter who you are. So if you need some help with that, I've left a link in the description down below so you can either get pre-qualified or you can book a one-on-one call with me in order to figure out exactly how much you would be approved for to buy your first home here in sunny San Diego. And remember, no matter what you're doing, if you're buying a home, the very first step starts with getting pre-approved for a mortgage. So make sure you watch this video next to go over all the best tips and tricks that I've got to help put you in the best position to get pre-approved for a mortgage this year. But that's all I've got for this video. Make sure you leave a comment, smash that like button, and ring that bell, and I will see you over in the next one. See you.